Welcome to Lunch on the Way. Graham, our partner in crime here, has come down with COVID. So we thought this would be a great opportunity to get to know one another. And because Joey is usually our summarizer and our brain, we thought it might be a good idea to put Joey in a hot seat today and get to know him a little bit better.
I just got to preface it, though.
Do it, man.
We already said this, but it's a bit weird just staring at you and not having to look off somewhere else. You're not a weird dude. It's just two people in a room instead of three, and it really changes. It changes dynamics a bit.
It wasn't weird. It's weird now, though.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh, well, actually, see, when I just said that out loud, it feels less weird for me.
Okay, this is good.
But you hearing that, you feel more weird?
Today, it's all about you.
All right.
I don't mind. If you feel less weird and I feel a little bit weird, that's okay.
That's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So Joey, you're probably one of the nicest people I know.
I don't know where you got that impression from.
Well, yeah, sure. Humble as well. Look at that. Humble, incredibly smart. And I just want to know, how did you get like this?
Okay.
What's going on here? So, you obviously come from Canada.
Yes.
And when did you move to New Zealand?
I moved here in 2018, and that was August of 2018. And I guess there was a whole life before that.
Yeah.
And it feels like in my life that moving here to New Zealand from Canada was like a chapter closed in one part of my life, and like a whole new chapter kind of opened up. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so what do you want to know within those two chapters? I feel like I'm in chapter 2 right now of my life, and I'm beginning subtitle 2 of chapter 2 very soon with a child on the way. Yes.
Well, let's start with this, because I know that you're ordained minister, right?
Yes. Yeah.
In the Methodist.
Wesleyan Methodist.
Sorry, we just talked about this.
We did.
It's confusing to me. In the Wesleyan Methodist denomination.
Yeah.
Right? So you studied this before you came to New Zealand.
Yep.
This is kind of like this is chapter 1, right?
Yes, this is chapter 1. Chapter 1 was a long chapter.
So did you grow up in the Wesleyan Methodist tradition, or was that something that you have come to yourself?
Good question. So basically, yes, I'm an ordained minister in the Wesleyan Methodist Church of Aotearoa, New Zealand. Oh. However, I was properly ordained in Canada, and when I moved here, I transferred my credentials over to this denomination. Okay. So within that, I did not always grow up Wesleyan. I'm just going to say Wesleyan, to keep it simple. Yep. I did not grow up Wesleyan. I did grow up Wesleyan, but I didn't grow up going to church, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I think my family started going to church when I was about 10 or 11, probably 11 years old. Mm-hmm. And I had maybe a few experiences at like Christmas or Easter services as a kid, but that was really about it. My mom attended church quite regularly as a teen, and because my grandmother was a very committed Christian and my grandfather after her. Mm-hmm. And so they attended a Wesleyan church back in the city I grew up in Halifax, back in like what would have been like the 70s. Okay. Right?
And Halifax is English speaking or French speaking?
Halifax is English speaking in the east coast of Canada in Nova Scotia.
Okay.
So there's that. So that's kind of where I say I grew up Wesleyan. Yeah. But like I didn't grow up at church really. Yeah. Too much in my early years. So I don't know how much to reveal of my family's personal lives. So basically there was
probably not that much.
We won't reveal that much, but basically there was a catalytic moment that happened when I was about 10 or 11 years old that I think caused my family to reconsider some things. Yeah. And then so we started attending church.
At about 10 or 11?
At about 11 years old.
Okay.
And so essentially I was attending church. Didn't really know what the heck was going on. Yeah. Just a kid, not really thinking about too much. But
was it something that excited you at that time?
No, I was completely indifferent.
You went into it.
It was just another thing Mom and Dad dragged me to. Which they drug me to a bunch of things.
Right.
So it was not a thing. It didn't matter. However, around that time, because of that event that happened in my life with the family, I had begun to think about a lot of deeper questions of life, like what's the meaning of life? Why does this matter? As like an 11-year-old. Yeah, and I'm like realizing I could project out as an 11-year-old. I remember having these thoughts where I was like, well, you get married, you go to university, you get married, You have a job, you buy a house, you have kids, you live for 20-something years, have grandkids, retire, then die.
Yeah.
And then you're forgotten in 2 generations.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow.
Did you talk these over with your friends?
No, I just thought these things, and I was like, that is actually the logical outcome. But you're a kid, you don't dwell on it too much.
No, that's right.
And you just go have fun.
Yeah.
Because you're a kid.
Yeah.
So I didn't think about it too much. But then I think I was 11.
But something awakened in you at that moment.
It was the question. It was like I stepped away from myself for a second and kind of extracted or extrapolated.
Yeah.
Kind of reality a bit farther.
Yeah.
And I was invited to this youth event when I was 11 or 12 years old that really changed my life, and I didn't realize it had until looking back, really.
Yeah.
Where it was like a very typical holiness revivalist type meeting.
Yep.
All right. If you can stereotypically conjure that up in your brain, where the preacher preaches and then there's a response and people come to the front.
Yep. Altar calls,
stuff like that. So I
laying
have
on
no
of hands,
yes.
all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the atmosphere.
All the stuff.
Yep. Cool.
And I had no clue what was going on. Wasn't paying a single bit of attention to the sermon. I'm 11 years old.
Yep.
I can't listen to anything for longer than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. And this guy was going on for about 25, 30 probably. And
So just a short one.
no, yeah, just a short one. But he does this invitation at the end for people to come to the front and be prayed for. Yeah. And I was like, well, everyone's going to the front. Like lots of people.
Yeah.
I'm like, why can't I? Like, and I'm a bit stubborn personality wise. So I'm like, I should be able to do that too. Yeah. But I didn't know what the invitation was for. And so I asked my youth leader, and I'm like, can I go to the front too? And probably she was like, oh my goodness, this is a moment that I've been praying for my this entire time he's been a part of the youth ministry. Yeah. And I'm just like, no, I want to go see what's going on up there. Yeah. That's really all I wanted. Totally. And so I go up to the front, and I'm like, there's people taller than me everywhere. So I go to the person who was speaking, and I'm just like, just stand there. And then he just puts his hands on me and starts praying.
Wow.
And
what happened in that moment?
I just started crying.
Wow.
And I'm just like, what is going on? I was like, emotional going up there.
Yeah.
And then something happened.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's not just because he's praying. Well, it's just because he's praying for me, but something beyond that is happening right now. And it's not because there's music playing or anything. I don't have any memories of that.
Yeah.
All I remember is him praying for me, and I'm crying.
Yeah.
And something sparked within me where I had a deep desire to get to know this person who everyone's worshiping, who's Jesus.
Yeah. And
I was like, okay. And all I knew at that time was these people, they read their Bibles and they pray. So I tried, that night, I was like, well, I don't know what happened to me, but this feeling is associated with this gathering. So I'm just going to read my Bible and pray. Wow. And even in that moment, God was so good because he had gifted me one of my still best friends. Mm-hmm. Because it was a guy who was at school with me. Yeah. But I didn't know he was also a church kid too, which I guess I was now.
This is time for a shout out.
Yeah.
So,
Joel.
Hey to that friend. Hey, Joel.
Yeah. I won't say last names, but Joel, you know who you are. And yeah, time for a shout out. And I didn't know he was a church kid, and we see each other at registration at the beginning of the event, and we get put in the same room because we kind of know each other. It's his first time at a thing like this, my first time at a thing like this. We're really young. And then that was like, oh, he was my first Christian friend. And then it was like everything just kind of happened right there. Yeah. And I can attribute all of my kind of formation aspects of my life have been attributed to all of these great Christian friends along the way. Wow. And he was like the first one that kind of set that off. Wow. So I don't know when I got baptized or when I actually like repented and, went through that process of following Jesus. I think it was shortly after that I had realized, I am very far from God. Yeah. And I think I need to get close. And I know that praying to Jesus and asking for forgiveness that's what you do. Wow. So I did that, I think, in my bed one night. And then I told my youth pastor, and he said, well, you need to get baptized. I said, okay. Got baptized. And then I think I was like 12 years old at this point. And then I was off.
That's amazing.
And that's how I started following Jesus. Wow. Yeah.
So it's almost like you were hunted down. I mean, I think Chesterton has that saying, right? We're hunted down by God.
Yeah, it's pretty bizarre, and it wasn't like a silver bullet thing for life. Yeah, It was because I wouldn't describe it like that because there were still a lot of really dysfunctional things happening in my life at the time.
Yeah.
There were a few immediate changes that I noticed instantly, like this desire to know God was there. Mm-hmm. And then even some sins that I could easily identify were not an issue anymore really quickly.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Like as an 11 or 12-year-old, can you imagine like what a sin would be? I swore a lot, and as superficial as that sounds, at the time it wasn't. And it was like I felt really bad about that.
It felt damaging to you.
That felt damaging to me at the time.
Yeah.
And then all I remember is like, oh, I don't want to swear anymore. And I actually don't even have a desire to. And it's actually out of my vote. And so that was just like, oh, this is weird kind of moment. And I was like, and if I said the word, I'd be like, it'd be like I had soap in my mouth. Yeah. It was weird.
Yeah.
And so like those things happened, but I was still quite dysfunctional.
It reminds me of like the Isaiah, like he has that moment, and then he says, I'm a man of unclean lips.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have this experience. You go through all the kind of Christian steps of getting baptized, reading your Bible and stuff. So what's awakening you at this point? I mean, are you thinking, "Hey, I'm on the road now. I want to become a minister," or you just say, "This is just another part of not life"? Like, where's that Where's the transition?
Yeah.
What happens?
I was not thinking anything career-wise at all. I was 12 years old. I was a kid. I'm just trying to figure out how to be in middle school and high school as a Christian. And I'm not even trying to it wouldn't be until I entered high school that I really thought deeply about what it meant to be a follower of Jesus. Mm-hmm. But even throughout those years, I was very indifferent to what God may have been calling me to or anything. I had no drive, which is weird. So I'm following Jesus, but I actually have no drive to do anything.
Yeah.
I remember having a conversation with my mom, and I said, I've got a pretty good setup here at home. I'm like, I get my meals taken care of. I live somewhere. I get to play video games all the time. I'm like, why would I ever leave? And then she's like, no, you're leaving. I'm like, but in my head, I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. And I thought that was my plan.
The fear in her eyes.
I know, right? She's like, this boy's got to launch.
Yeah.
So that's what I thought. But there was one massive kind of formational moment that helped along the way. Yeah. Two. One led to the other. My sister, she was a camp counselor or cabin leader at a Christian camp, and she's 2 years older than me. Yep. And because I, look up to your sister, you look up to the older siblings, I was like, well, I want to do that too. Yeah. Okay. Right. So I tried my hardest to apply, and I got in as a counselor full time my first summer. And what that means in Canada is you're gone for 2 months of the summer away from home. Wow. And I was on this island in the middle of the St. John River called Caton's Island.
How old are you at this stage?
15.
Okay, young.
Yeah, so still young, but like you're given responsibility and you start to feel older because you got responsibility, you got people you're in charge of and all that stuff. And it was a really intentional environment of like, okay, these people are really into praying and reading their Bibles and journeying with each other, and we're leading campers to follow Jesus. Yep. And like, it's a very evangelistic camp, right? Yep. So I'm just trying to be within that. And I really enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy the cabin leading as much because I like kids, but I don't like babysitting. Yeah.
Okay.
And however,
how old are these kids?
Oh, anywhere from 5 to 18.
Oh, wow. Okay.
There was like, I wasn't old enough to do, one year I did teen camp and one of the kids was older than me. It was bizarre. So 5 to 18, somewhere in there. And I'm in charge.
Okay. Oh my goodness.
And different camps for different weeks. Yeah.
Okay. So
it's like 5 to 7, 8 to 9s, 10 to 12s, 13s to 18s. Okay. Stuff like that. Yep. And so, but what I really enjoyed is being in fellowship with all these like-minded people my own age who are really driven and they want to know God, and I want to know God too. And that's all I knew. And that was great. Yeah. And I was still sucking at school. I was still like, had no direction, but I was doing ministry. Right. But I had no thought whatsoever of doing this after school. And I had no plans. Anyway, it was my second year working there. I was 16 years old. And it was during a teen camp, and I wasn't counseling that week. I was doing boat runs, they called it. So we're on an island, and the boat, we had to ferry people on and off to get on and off the island. and it's about a 2.5-minute boat ride across, something like that. And so there was this person speaking at the evening chapel service, and I know this person now quite closely because they were one of my lecturers at uni. But they were speaking, and I just felt like drawn to the service.
Yeah.
Typically I wouldn't, but I was like, because I liked sitting on the front of this house overlooking the water in the evening. It's really beautiful. But I was like, no, I want to go up. So I go up, and then all of a sudden my walkie-talkie goes off, and I got to go down and do a boat run. And so that happened about 2 or 3 times. And then I don't know, again, similar scenario to the first story. I don't know what he was talking about really. I wasn't there long enough to really get any context. But I showed up just at the very end when he said, well, I feel led at the moment. If you feel like God's calling you into ministry, I just want you to come to the front because I want to pray for you. And there may have been one other time, but I can't remember it now, which is kind of sad. But that was one of the only times where a voice popped into my head that I distinctly knew was not my own.
Wow.
And
what did it say?
That's you.
Oh, really?
And I was like, and it was, it's like I couldn't control my body. I melodramatically threw my hat on the ground in the back as a 16-year-old teenager, like, oh, what the flip is going on? Like Moses taking his sandals off.
Yeah.
And then I walked to the front, and then I'm just like, I'm weeping. I'm like, what the flip has just happened? In a second, I'm like, I was ferrying people across an island. And then I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
And even then, I didn't know what that was going to look like. I had no clue. I knew that if you wanted to be in ministry, you had to at least speak in front of people and do things like that and lead people. And I felt completely ill-equipped to do that. I hated speaking in front of people. I hated it. I would get like nervous, like beyond belief. And I remember there was one time I had to ask for money for this camp to help subsidize our wages, because we didn't make a lot of money. Yeah. So I would go in front of the church and ask for money, but me and 2 other guys from the church did that. Yeah. And I remember going up there, and I had the mic in my hand. Yeah. And I literally said nothing.
Oh, man.
And I'm just like
stage fright, complete stage fright.
I was thinking, I'm like, I have nothing to say. I have it for like 10 seconds. And then my friend just takes it from me and starts talking.
I think right at this stage, this is the biggest surprise for me that you had nothing to say, Joey.
I had nothing to say. I was just like, oh. And so, so there's that experience. And this is all still within the umbrella of the Wesleyan Church. Wow. Right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I'm still going through school. However, I know enough now that, okay, I need to at least try a bit harder at school. So I try harder, and I'm like, I got to graduate high school at least. So I'm in my grade 12 year, my last year of school. Yes, that's it. And I know I have to do well at school, but I'm still scared of uni. I know what the applications are. I know what Bible college or university I will go to because it's the Wesleyan one that's 5 hours away. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know a scenario where I will excel at school. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. So I kind of run away from the call. I don't apply anywhere in my grade 12 year. And then I go to the camp for my 3rd and final year. At this camp, I'm 17, turning 18 that summer. And then there's this guy who's a youth pastor, and it's a teen camp. I'm counseling at the teen camp, or cabin leading. I know that phrase means something different to some people. Yeah. Cabin leading at the teen camp. And this youth pastor from the city I'm from, but a different church, is in the same cabin as me, as my co-leader. And as the week goes on, he's a really cool guy. He's about 40. Okay. And I'm 18. Okay. So not like a kid, like an adult, second career guy. And by, I think day 4 or day 5, because he's a camp speaker too. And by day 4 or day 5 of the camp, he's like, Joey, I think like God's calling you to ministry. And I'm like, why do you think that? Yeah. It's like, I don't know. I just got this sense. And he doesn't know about all this like thing that happened the year before.
Right. Yeah.
And he's like, I think you should I really want you to like just share a little bit about what that might mean to you. And he hasn't heard anything of my story. He just wants me to share at the chapel service after he preaches.
Well, how are you feeling about that?
Dude, I don't want to say anything. Yeah. I got nothing to say. Yeah. And I say no. Yeah. And then as the day goes on, God just starts working in my heart, and he's like, no, you got to say something. Yeah. And then so I go back to him. I said, okay, I will. But what do you want me to say? He's like, just say what you're feeling at the time and just kind of process that out loud with some people. And I'm like, all right. So, in true Joey fashion, I get up there and I start talking, and then I'm like, and then God called me into ministry. And then once I said that, I start crying, and then I don't get any more words out, and he had to come up and then just say, thanks for sharing. And I was like 2 minutes in, right? I'm done. And that's a common story, Joey crying.
Is it?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And during some God moments.
Okay, cool.
And
let's see what we can do here.
yeah, and then so he encourages me to pursue like university and ministry preparation and stuff like that, and I still push away from it.
And that's he still thought this kid's got a calling on him.
Yeah, even though I was
it doesn't matter. He can't speak in front of people, but there's something going on here.
Yeah, and he saw what I couldn't see.
Amazing.
And so yeah, I just trusted that. But I still didn't go to school for the first semester.
Okay.
Of what is this now? 2010. So September 2010 is the start of a semester in Canada. Didn't go to school that entire year.
Yep.
I finally got a job near the start of winter in Canada, very cold, at a lumber yard.
Oh gosh.
It was brutal.
Oh man.
I hated it.
Yeah.
I'm outside in negative 25-degree weather. The people there are the
rough.
worst.
Yeah.
I know this. You shouldn't judge people. It was brutal conversation.
Yeah.
And brutal stuff they're bringing to work, and it was just a crap environment.
Totally.
And I was just like, nope.
Yeah.
This is.
And you're this kid that loves to stay at home and get the meals cooked by mom, and now you're around these guys.
Yep.
Okay.
And now I'm like, all right, I need to go to school.
Okay.
I'm like, I think God,
so I think God gave you a job.
Yeah. He gave me a job. So I didn't go that second semester. I waited for the fresh start of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I went to school.
And at this stage, are you feeling this? Are you saying, yeah, I think that feeling, that call on my life, this is it? Or at this stage, are you still like, well, see what happens? I don't know.
You want my honest opinion?
Yeah, I do. I want it. Give it to me straight.
I applied with a major in pastoral ministry and a minor in music.
Okay.
Because I played a lot of electric guitar.
I did not
played
know that.
in a bunch of different worship bands that played on like those rally youth event type things.
Okay.
Throughout my teens.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I'll be a pastor, but I'll be like one of those Hillsong pastors who just play guitar.
How's that working?
That was the plan. That was the plan. And even in my first semester,
that is
I was like,
awesome.
So I'll give you some backstory. So my first semester, I show up. I'm a pastoral major, music minor. And man, we're going deep. We're going deep. Now this is not at seminary yet, right? This is not a seminary. It's a Bible college that had just recently become a proper university.
Okay.
But it's a small school, 200 people.
Okay.
It's kind of what people would describe as Laidlaw maybe in the 90s.
Okay.
But
you could study worship, like you could put together a worship set list.
That kind of music a little bit.
Okay.
But not too, it's a bit more...
It's a bit Hillsongy.
Not that much, though.
Yeah.
It's more theoretical music.
Okay.
And a bit...
Okay.
I'm not going to stop
Yeah, no,
there.
I got you.
Yeah. So basically, that's my first semester. I have those two kind of focuses. And then very quickly I realized the music stuff just isn't for me.
Okay.
I don't know what, but I was like, this is just it. I did a lot of music theory and piano, and I played baritone euphonium in high school band.
Wow, come on.
So I had the stuff in my head, and I was like, I don't not that I was beyond this. It's just a lot of this was repeating.
Yeah.
And review.
Yeah.
So I was like, no, I just need to get rid of this. And what I did was I pivoted and went and changed my degree to this thing called Praxis Associative Arts degree, which is a 2-year thing that moves right back into the pastoral track once you finish.
Okay.
So you take all the same courses, but a few different. And what that is, it was really intentional around evangelism. Not as much discipleship, but evangelism.
Yeah.
So what it looked like is every single week we would go out somewhere in the community and we would go to like either a soup kitchen or a youth correctional facility or a prison, do the chapel service, someone would speak, that kind of stuff, right? And it was super helpful.
Okay.
It just it broke down a lot of barriers in my life to where I had a lot of fear of talking to people about Jesus.
I was just thinking that,
And where I'm like, if I can talk about Jesus to some guy with a teardrop on his eye tattoo in a prison or a kid who's 18 years old who killed 3 people or someone who's homeless in a soup kitchen, I can do it, talk to Jesus about anyone.
Yeah. Okay.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And then we had some bigger experiences within that program where we went to New York City for 10 days.
Oh, wow.
And doing evangelism. The techniques I wouldn't necessarily use here.
Yeah.
But in some of those contexts, they work very well.
Yeah, yeah.
Like dramas and street preaching would not work here.
Yep.
But when we went to Guatemala, hundreds of people
Oh, that's amazing.
would show up.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, oh my goodness. And
Yeah.
I got to share my testimony
That's
now
amazing.
through a translator.
Oh, that's difficult.
And I'm like, now there's 500 random people just not just passing by,
Yeah.
standing there in the middle of the square in Guatemala City.
Amazing.
And I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
here we go. You know, and so it worked. The context worked for that. in a
And at
sense.
that stage, you're kicking yourself for giving up the music side of things.
No, I was still, yeah, maybe. I was still doing music because I needed a guitarist and stuff for the band to kind of get the speaking prep going.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that program was super helpful formationally. Yeah.
So how did you end up in seminary though? Like, what's that move to go and study seminary? Because that seems to me like this isn't seminary, right? This isn't.
Is
I
undergrad.
guess when I say with seminary, I mean what puts you on the track to actually sign up on the track to become a minister?
The call.
The call.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
people placed in my life who put me in that direction.
Yeah, amazing.
And then even beyond that, what propelled me to go on further studying
Yeah.
to do a Master of Arts in Theology at Acadia Divinity College, shout out,
shout
in
out.
Nova Scotia, Canada, was more people
Yeah.
and still a sense of call.
Yeah.
Where I remember, I think it was my second semester, first year, I was feeling really down and out. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But I was, and I was really questioning why I was here,
Yeah.
feeling really discouraged for some reason.
Yeah.
And I remember I was sitting in this class, and I just remember just praying to God, you got to do, like, make it pretty clear. You've made it clear so far, but I feel really discouraged. I need you to kind of reaffirm this call in my
Yeah.
life and really give me a focus.
Yeah.
Because I don't know where this is going to lead to.
Yeah.
So I put my head down on my desk, disconnect from the room, and the guy who was lecturing, this guy named Mike,
Yeah.
he said, "You know who I think is the gift of teaching?
Oh, dude.
Joey." And my head shoots right up from my desk, and I'm like, and this is like 5 seconds after I said that in my head, I'm like, what the flip? And
Wow.
and he's got nothing to base this on.
Wow.
Nothing to base it on. And I'm like, good enough for me,
That's-
you know? And I'm like, here we go.
Wow.
And so that propelled me into doing further study and
Yeah.
to really think well
Yeah.
if I want to
Yeah.
teach well.
Yes.
And then I was given, obviously, preaching and teaching opportunities throughout school.
Yep.
With different things going on. And yeah, and then it really kicked off when I went to seminary.
Yeah.
Or went to do my master's because I was a youth pastor there anyway.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Yep. And then, so what brings you to New Zealand? How did you end up in New Zealand?
yeah. So
Because you're married to a Kiwi, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
With a little bub on the way.
with a little dual citizen.
Really
on the way.
soon, right?
Like days away.
Days away, and you're here talking. Okay,
I shouldn't
that's
be
good.
here right now.
It's good, man. It's good.
So like I said, we came here in 2018.
Yeah.
And we graduated in 2015. Another part of my story.
Yeah.
I traveled each summer when I was at uni on an admissions worship team band.
Okay.
Where we promoted the school and went from camp to camp to camp throughout North America and
I love
Canada
this,
as
man.
like the worship
I love
team.
this.
I played electric guitar and she played bass.
Wow. Do you still play guitar?
Not
Played
as-
bass?
she played bass.
That's cool,
That's
man.
way cool.
That is way cool.
That is way cool, isn't it?
Shout out.
The foreign girl playing bass.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Match made in heaven,
Yeah,
right?
it was pretty good.
Yeah.
So my first year, we weren't dating, nothing. Second year, I think we were very interested in each other, but we knew we couldn't because we wanted to do this our third year.
Right.
But
and you weren't allowed to date?
well, that we assumed that was the rule.
Oh, okay.
Right, but
Okay.
that's on a case by case basis, and I guess we passed the test or
Cool.
whatever from
Okay.
people who were in charge of us.
Yeah.
So then, going into our third year of study, we started dating,
Yep.
and then we got engaged going into our fourth year.
Wow.
Because we both knew that if we've known each other for a good long time,
Yeah.
traveling together, we know each other.
Yeah.
Let's just fast track this thing because when
Okay.
we graduate, it's going to be you're going to New Zealand and I'm going to stay in Canada.
Yeah.
So let's fast track this
Yeah.
thing.
Okay. If we're
And
going to stay together, we're
we're
going
going to get married.
Okay, cool.
So we got married the 5 days after graduating, and then 5 days
Man.
before graduating, we candidated to be children and youth pastors at a church close to where I went to
wow.
do my master's. So over the course of 10 days, candidated and were interviewed for a pastoral position, graduated, got married, went on honeymoon for a week, and then didn't have a job to come back to until the last couple of days of the honeymoon, got an email saying we got the jobs.
Oh, my goodness.
Got back to Halifax, moved an hour away from Halifax to rural Nova Scotia, Canada. I was the youth pastor part-time, master's full-time. Wife was kids pastor full-time. Church was awesome. Staff was awesome. It was a great situation.
Wow.
Love the town.
Mum's happy because you're not
Mom and
living at
Dad
home
are
anymore.
happy. Well, they're happy because we're close, but not too close.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
And then so we were there for 3 years.
Wow. Okay.
And
that's an intense part of life. I mean, getting
it's
married,
full on,
working
man.
together.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine starting ministry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So stressful.
Yeah.
Exciting, but
It was intense. And then all of a sudden we had jobs.
Yep.
And then it was the summer.
Yep.
And everything slowed right down.
Yep.
And
Yep.
we were like, oh, life's boring now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
After that,
it was boring. No, it was really fun. And I loved what we did there. I guess I won't dwell too much on what we did there. It was New Hope Wesleyan Church. If anyone wants to look it up, we were there in Kentville, Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
And so I finished my master's in 2017.
On what?
On a master's in New Testament Studies of Theology, and it was a master's thesis on John chapter 6 verses 51 to 58.
Okay.
Where Jesus says, "Eat my flesh and drink my blood." And I was looking at a Eucharistic interpretation of that passage.
Yep.
So
that makes sense.
Because I'll get a bit deeper, because the Gospel of John has no explicit sacramental narratives.
Gotcha.
There's no baptism. There's no Lord's Supper narrative. There's nothing like that. But he uses water and food and blood and Judas's betrayal as like foreshadow throughout the Gospel so often, where it's like, surely the author's doing something deeply theological here, using the sacraments, and I was more focused on the Eucharist to inform us of something really, really important.
Yeah.
I won't get into the details of that.
Yeah.
So I finished that, and my wife and I, we prayed about, well, when are we going to go to New Zealand? Because we know it's going to happen at some point.
She's wanting to go back?
Yeah. I don't think we wanted to. I think we're open to it.
Yeah.
If that's fair.
Yep.
It's like we'll take it or leave it.
Yep.
Either or. Because we really liked where we were at.
Yep.
The church, it was awesome. It was so much fun being there, and such a loving. Rural communities are very loving, and they care for you really well.
Yeah.
I find.
But you hadn't been to New Zealand at this stage, right?
I'd been there twice.
Oh, you'd been... Okay, so you knew what you were coming to.
I knew I was coming to.
If you were to come here. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know how much of the detail I'm going to get into, because people who are involved would be listening to this.
Yeah.
But essentially,
I don't think we need to.
we prayed for a massive thing to happen, to be provided for. And then a week later, that thing was provided for with the job offer.
That's insane. Was this to
No,
your
it was
current?
to the church.
Okay, to your church. Okay.
To the church that we now pastor at as staff pastors.
Yeah.
And we were just like
That's
floored.
amazing.
We were like, oh my gosh. All right. But it was still a really difficult decision to make, because we loved the community so much. But we were like, well, I think this is a clear opportunity to move to New Zealand, because it's just like we prayed for this thing, and it was an audacious, it was a crazy prayer. I'm like, there's no way. And then it happens, and I'm like, what the flip? And
I feel like this is a story of your life. Wow.
I don't understand. I feel like I know people, like, not everything in life is perfect, has been good.
Yeah.
But I feel like my life is just one big happy accident.
Yeah.
That's how it feels like to me.
That's a nice way to put it. Yeah.
It's just a happy accident. I've done very little forethought and planning, and it's just kind of fallen into place.
Yeah.
But that's not to say, anyway, you want to qualify that, be like, not every day is awesome, but whatever.
Exactly.
Yes. So then we decide we're going to go for it, and we moved to New Zealand in August of 2018.
Yeah.
And we assume positions as, I think I'm an assistant pastor, hours fluctuating around depending on the year, and then my wife's a kids pastor or children's pastor.
Wow.
And then I cold emailed Laidlaw.
Yeah, exactly.
And cold
this part I
emailed
know. Yeah.
Roshan before I moved here. And he was so open to having a conversation. And then, I stuck around, and then opportunities come up, and
Amazing.
you just seize opportunities as they come.
Yeah.
And then now I work at Laidlaw as well.
Wow.
So
what's been the biggest difference between ministering in Canada to Canadians and ministering to Kiwis?
Yeah, I'm learning that you've got to be very specific in context conversations like that.
Okay.
Because when you say Canadians, it's just it's so different.
Sorry.
No, I get it. It's like saying
South Islanders,
it's like, exactly.
Aucklanders.
Auckland, exactly. Or like the West Coast is more of a pioneer feel, because it's like maybe some of those cities only were founded 100 years ago, right? Where the East Coast is very well established, 400, 500 years of history. So the East Coast of Canada is where I come from. I grew up in a very unique part of Halifax. You wouldn't think it's unique living here in Auckland, but for Halifax, it was unique, where it was, majority white European descent. However, we had a good mix of other ethnicities and world religions in the school. In my high school I went to, from the Middle East to Southeast Asia.
Oh, wow.
And things like that. And I was like, all right. So I didn't think much of it. It's just what my context was.
Yeah.
However, the majority of Nova Scotia would be monoculture.
Yeah.
Not all, but majority. Halifax more diverse than the rest of the province. So when it comes to ministry there as opposed to here,
and largely secular,
but I think there's still more of a Christian heritage there than there is here, because they actually went through revivalist histories of the 1600s and 18th century. So it's different here.
So there's no resonance of that here.
No, because when we talked to Sam, he said that 29% was the highest church attendance in New Zealand in 1890.
Yeah, that's
we were certainly higher than that. At our peak, right?
Okay.
So the difference would be, I can assume a lot of things in Canada if I assume these things, I'm probably hitting 90% of the people. I cannot assume those things here. I might be hitting 40%, 30%, 25%.
Okay.
Especially, I know people complain about like some churches are mono-ethnic. That's not the church I attend. It's quite diverse.
Yes. Is that a Wesleyan thing?
I don't know.
I mean, I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay.
I just showed up and that's what it was.
Yeah.
And it's not to say it is the majority minority is European, but it's a minority majority, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's less than 50%.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know where it is, but it's less than 50%. And then I don't know how many different countries are represented in the church. I think it's at least over 15.
Okay.
Maybe around 15.
Yeah.
Is the rest.
Amazing.
And so when I preach at church here, I don't know. It's just, I got to think of a whole lot of different things in my head that I just can't assume.
Yeah.
And I kind of go on a bit of autopilot, and I'm sure I'm making mistakes and along the way. But you just can't assume anything anymore.
Amazing.
You've got to really, and even when I say blanket statements of generalization, I can't if I do, I cringe inside myself. Because I'm like, this is only representative of maybe 35% of the people in the room. Even though the broad cultural streams of secularism are wider than this room, this room does not representative of the wide culture across the country. That's the difficult bit.
I think that's true.
Yeah.
So in terms of, I know, so you've come here and you've also started a master's when you turned up here, right? As well?
Yes.
So what was your master's on here?
Yeah. So moved here 2018 August, and we went back to Canada for a visit in 2019 September before the pandemic, thank goodness. And I was just wondering, I was kind of floating around. My feet weren't completely rooted and planted quite yet, as it takes a while when you move across the world, I guess, or anywhere really. So I was like, I'm not working quite full time yet, and I'm not quite sure what I want to do, but I think I want to try and pursue another master's thesis to see if I can get my grade a bit higher. And this place, you've been a minister. You've got two jobs on the go. You've got been a minister. So you're ministering, but you're also working at a theological college. Okay. And I was working a little bit at a warehouse.
Okay.
Uncle's warehouse a little bit.
Back to the lumberyard.
Yeah, but that was a fun environment. That was cool. So after we got back from Canada, we used that as kind of a bit of discernment for the next year. And we were like, all right, my wife and I, let's go for it. Let's take a year and just do another master's thesis. This one was more intense than the last one, 40,000 words. And it was on Romans 5:12 through 21, where Paul compares Adam to Christ. And so, the first Adam, or the first man, brought sin and death. All right, and then Jesus brings grace and life. And all that stuff. And I looked at that passage as deeply as I possibly could to try and pull out, what the heck is Paul even talking about here?
Amazing.
And I kind of forget what my conclusion is. I shouldn't forget this because I got to talk about it in about a week in the library. But
they putting it in the library?
Yeah.
Excellent. So everyone can come and see it. Everyone can come and read it. Great.
But the one...
Can you give us the title of it? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I think it's Romans 5:12 through 21. Pauline typology or something.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
Anyway, that's probably not exactly it anyway. However, What I can tell you, though, which I found really cool,
Yeah.
because I like the biblical study stuff, I like getting into the text,
Yeah.
is people, when they read Romans, it's like they're caught up in the weeds, and they're like, what the heck is going on? They can't kind of distance themselves structurally
Yep.
from what Paul's saying.
Yep.
And because of that, we get a lot of proof texting
Yeah.
of Romans.
Yep.
However, what I found in my
It's
research...
almost like the litmus test of what denomination you belong to.
It's true.
So read Romans, and we will tell you
Yeah.
where you fit.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. Do you read it like this?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, you're one of us. You're not one of us.
That's right.
Do you think this was Paul talking about himself
Yeah.
on how he couldn't help but sin?
Yeah.
Or do you think that he was talking about Adam?
That's right.
You know?
Oh,
or
so
both.
you're a Methodist, or you're an Anglican.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, I got you.
You know, and that's like us. We can't help but sin, even though we follow Jesus. It's
That's
like, yeah, okay. Anyway,
Okay, so you wanted to get underneath all that. You wanted to do a different reading
I wanted to get
as clear as you could without any kind of presuppositions of
Yes.
what it might be saying.
So what I found was, this wasn't the main argument, but it was a really cool thing. What I found was that Romans 5 is like a pivot point in the entire massive argument that Paul's making. Because there's two arguments, big arguments, chapter 1 through chapter 9, I think, or 8. And there's 9 through 11 or 12 is two big arguments, but they all kind of come together. It's all very logical. And so chapter 5 is a pivot point where everything that Paul's talking about leads to that moment in chapter 5, talking about Adam and Christ, where he's like, the Jewish people, he's talking about to his Jewish audience early on in the book, and then he makes them realize that they're just as bad or just as in need of Jesus as Gentiles. That yes, they were given the law, they were given the revelation of God early, but that was only for the purpose of carrying that through till this point.
This is true.
So then he's like, well, we're actually all in the family of Adam. Yeah, you're the family of Israel, but we're all in the family of Adam. But it's Christ who is the second Adam, who's done the thing that much greater. And what we see is that he takes this Jesus-Adam theology and propels it into the next argument on what is actually happening now because of what Christ has done. And he talks about living by the Spirit, in the Spirit, and how you've been dead to your sins, but you're alive in Christ. And so you should not keep on sinning because you're dead to your sins. Like, what do you mean?
Yep.
Like, you've already died. Don't you know you've died? And you've been risen with Christ. You're not Adamists anymore. You're Jesus's now. And so there's and that's the pivot point of the whole argument of Romans.
Yeah.
If I could summarize Romans really quickly, and people will obviously disagree with this because there's so many commentaries on Romans.
Yep.
Paul is saying to the Jew and the Gentile, you're all part of one family.
Yeah.
You're all a part of Adam's family, not the Adams family, Adam's family. But thanks be to God because now you're part of Jesus's family.
Yeah.
And he's like, we're all on the same journey.
Yeah.
But it's Jesus who makes that switch and that transition over to God's family.
Yeah.
And then the implications are spelled out from there.
Yeah.
And that's the book of Romans.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Which family do you identify with?
Yeah.
Adam or Jesus?
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
When you look back to those first moments where you felt, called out by God, could you imagine yourself doing that kind of work?
Never.
This journey that you've been on is completely like surprising to you.
I'm completely shocked. It seems normal now because it's just my life, right?
Yeah.
But if I were to have not been called, if I were to still have been a Christian, but not been called into ministry, I think I would know what my life would be roughly.
Yeah.
I'd be living in Halifax, and I'd be probably a mortgage broker.
Yeah.
With my mom.
Wow.
My mom's a mortgage broker.
Okay.
And I probably would be her assistant and soon to take over the business.
Amazing.
I think that's exactly what would have happened.
Amazing.
And I might not have been that good at it.
Wow.
Because I don't think I would have been driven.
Yeah.
And I would have, but a part of me is like, I can't imagine a life any different to this.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, those deeper questions and desires and meaning and purpose, I'm like, I don't know if what came first.
Yeah.
The desire for meaning and purpose in my life and then the call.
Yeah.
Or the call that has like fueled this desire for meaning and purpose in life.
Yeah.
And vocational meaning and purpose.
Yeah.
I realized I'll give you something else.
Yeah,
that's funny. When I moved here, I was really into trying to how to maybe start a business and make some money.
Okay.
Because I'm like, I'm going to have a lot of free time. The church wants my wife more than me.
Right.
I have less hours than her.
Right.
Maybe I should just try and make some money. Like start something, set something up for the family.
Yeah.
And the moment I even begin to think about that, where I start to write things down, my soul gets drained.
That is so interesting because you're such a, I mean, you're a pretty organized kind of guy. Yet the stream of your life is like this, like you go where it goes.
Yeah.
You jump in and you take it where it goes because it's calling the deepest part of you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have so many skills that you could go and do whatever you wanted. Yet something deep in you is you need something more than that.
Yeah. I'm not motivated by money.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I'm not motivated by very many things.
That's man.
Other than kind of what God wants me to do.
Yeah. So, okay.
Yeah.
What's next for Joey? Like, I mean, are there stirrings, man? Are we allowed to go there? Can I ask that? What's next for you? Or are you waiting? Are you waiting for God to call you into something else?
Yeah, I'm waiting.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's not that I'm not discontent at all.
Yeah.
I tell people who are my bosses in both here and at the church that I really enjoy the space I'm in.
Oh man, yeah.
I love being in the academic world with students and with faculty members.
Yeah.
And thinking.
Yeah.
And having conversations like this with you and Graham. I love it.
And as a reference for anyone listening, you're amazing at it too. You not only do it, you're amazing at it. I see the students just flock around you. And that's a gift.
Well, it's fun, and thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, and so I love this work, but I also
trying to get you crying.
I love the pastoral work too, and I'm not saying I'm saying this is going to be published online at some point. So anyone who has authority over me, just don't take this for what it is.
Yeah.
I also love the church work as well. I love preaching.
Yeah.
I love some of the discipleship, mentoring relationships I have with some people. I like thinking about strategy and how to actually get things done and being on mission and evangelism.
Yeah.
I love that. I love both worlds. But I had the thought the other day, and this probably won't be forever, this feeling, but for right now it is, where I'm like, if I'm just in one of the two spaces forever, I feel like I would hate it. Yeah,
you have a strange skill set that you can speak into both worlds.
I feel like I've got to be in both.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying that like that's what I'm telling. I'm 65.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what God's going to call me to, and I'm very call driven.
Yeah.
So I can't say that. But right now, in this moment, at the end of 2022, I really love what I'm doing. And I have no desire to change it.
Yep.
Yeah.
But your inner ear is open to wherever God may be leading you into next.
Of course. It's always got to be open. And like even I had the thought the other day, not the other day, I think it was this morning actually.
Yeah.
Where, we live in Auckland.
Yeah.
Housing prices are ridiculous. My family's trying to do our best. However, a part of me is like, man, we're having a kid soon. And I'm like, all that stuff's important, but it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know what? If I died with zero money, $0, and at 75 and homeless, I don't think I will. But if that's the case, I'm like, that's okay.
Amazing.
And I had that thought this morning. I'm like, that's okay.
Amazing.
Because life's not about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's most important is the call that God's placed on people and on my life. And now what's most important is the intentional parenting of a child. Yeah,
that's right.
And to help this person see what's really important in the world. And see what that call is. And hopefully God will have his own journey for that person. And I'm like, all this financial material stuff that we're just so obsessed with. And the news is constantly talking about it. Housing prices, cheaper, more expensive, interest rates.
That's right.
You need to have the dream, the Kiwi home, the setup, retirement, all this stuff. I'm not stupid. I'm making plans. However, it doesn't matter, man. We're all going to die. I'm like, Newsflash. I'm like, you're either going to die sooner or later.
Yeah, that's right.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
What matters is the stuff that is actually like, it's the treasures in heaven. You know, it's the things that you're working towards that will actually last forever.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that matters.
That's amazing.
And
yeah.
I'm just like, the reason I'm not saying that like, oh, Joey's got to figure it out. I'm thinking about that now because it's very tempting.
Yeah.
To go along with the script, the script of culture and the script of, you know. So I'm always telling myself that.
Yeah. So what excites you then theologically? Like what's something that's gripping you at the moment that you either are thinking about, that you want to grapple with a little bit more, or that spurs you on into deeper study or deeper thinking?
That's a tough question.
Is it? Okay.
It's a tough question.
Well, I know that you're reading Charles Taylor.
Yes.
Something of that must be coming through.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's really interesting. His diagnosis of secular culture and secularism is really cool.
Yep.
But I think I'm a bit of an evangelist at heart.
Yeah.
Because the things I'm most interested in are the things that bridge both worlds of academic and practical theology. And I've got people here at Laidlaw who are like, you need to be in the practical theology department. I got people here as well who are like biblical studies. I'm like, can I do both?
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to do both. And I think that sounds great to me. I don't have a one topic, to be honest, Jonathan.
Yeah.
I think I've got a lot of, my overall driving passion at the moment is, how do I help people realize, and I think it's the thing we've been talking about, especially the episode we're not going to air yesterday that we recorded, around what is like helping people see reality for what it is and God's kingdom here on earth as reality. Yeah. And however I can do that is this overarching theological and practical thing that is driving my life.
Yes.
Because it's so tough, because even when I preach on Sunday mornings, I don't know what people are thinking. Yeah. But I'm just like, I'm trying to preach that as much as I can and say that to people and imperfectly live that out in my life. And it's just, it feels so hard. Yeah. Like that's the hard soil message. Yeah. Where it's just like, no, you don't it's not, this is not just one more thing that you put onto your like flourishing checklist.
That's right.
Of being a fully functioning human. Yeah. This is life itself.
Get my house, get the car, I'll follow Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on. What?
Yeah.
Hang on.
No. So that's the overarching thing. Yeah. Yeah.
No, I think that's right. And it's funny, the thought that I had in my mind is when you say, I want to do all these things. That's the preaching moment, right? Yeah. That's where you can do all those things.
You can. Yeah.
So in what you're saying, you're an evangelist, you're a preacher, which is ironic if we come back to your story, that you're the guy that couldn't even speak in front of people. Yet here you are with a burning desire to speak the gospel to people.
Because I got something to say.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Something's happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Something's happened. I got something to say. Yeah. Before, nothing's happened and I got nothing to say. So I didn't know how to open my mouth.
So something broke in.
Yeah. Something
changed
broke in.
Everything. You couldn't hold it back anymore. You had to speak.
Yeah. And I guess to kind of close, I know you're running this thing, but we're at an hour now.
No, exactly. Yeah.
To kind of close, what's really cool and I've been reflecting on a lot more is the legacy legacy in general, obviously having a kid soon, but also the legacy of my grandmother, who I never met, passed away when I was I was only like a few months in the womb. And she had that, that first step of following Jesus. I think the story goes where she was in the trailer park, very low income family, trailer park televangelist, came to Jesus.
Wow.
Got in contact with the closest church she could find, which is a Wesleyan church. And that's the start of the story.
No way.
And I don't know what other faith background the family has before that, but yeah.
Wow.
And it was that one call and the one faithful moment and her responding in obedience. And, Grampy went the next Sunday, poured his liquor down the sink, no longer drank any alcohol. And then, kids went to church as teens and children.
Wow.
And then, stuff happens beyond there.
The family's there.
Yeah. So it's
Man.
just like legacy. I'm learning is just like so important.
Yeah.
And how do you do that? Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Open question.
Open question.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing, man. Well, I reckon we've got to wrap it up at some point, but that's amazing. Thank you so much, man, for bringing us into your life story. It's been amazing. And now I know why you're such a nice guy. But also, I think more than that, why there's something about you that just kind of exudes the presence of God. And I can tell why, because it's been it's been real in your life, and you want to pass that on to other people. So, dude, thank you so much. It's been great getting to know you more, and I can't wait to do this with either me or Graham.
Yeah.
So
watch out,
stay tuned.
Yeah. Thanks.